Okay, this is chapter 7 final on multiplication division of polynomials. The first 6 questions on your test, I believe, were true false. First question says 5x plus 2x is the same value as 14x squared divided by 2, and the answer is false. Now, an answer of false with no supporting work is marked wrong. You had to say that 5x plus 2x is 7x, and that 7x does not equal what half of 14x squared is. So that would be the work I would have shown, that 7x does not equal 7x squared, and therefore it's false. But there are various ways you could have said that. That was probably the best. In the second question, you have 2x squared plus 4x is equal to, or is the same value as, 2x multiplied by x squared plus 2. And the answer again is false. Now on this side here, 2x squared plus 4x cannot be simplified or added together, because they are not like terms. But when I expand the other side using distributive property, remember 2x, which is 2 times x, multiplied by x squared, which is x times x, is actually 2x cubed, not 2x squared. And 2x multiplied by 2 is actually 4x. So 2x squared plus 4x does not equal 2x cubed plus 4x, and therefore it's false. Question 3, it says the division of the binomial 10x squared minus 5x by negative 5x is the same value as negative 2x minus 1. What we're going to do here is we're going to use, again, distributive property and divide all of the terms of our binomial by negative 5x, or 10x squared divided by negative 5x, and negative 5x divided by negative 5x. When we do that, this is going to give us a negative 2x, and this is going to give us a 1 or a plus 1. So the answer is false. It does not equal negative 2x minus 1. It equals a negative 2x plus 1, because a negative 5 divided by a negative 5, or a negative divided by a negative anyway, is going to be a positive, not a negative. Question 4, 12x divided by 6x is equal to 2x. The answer is false, because 12x divided by 6x is the same thing as 12 multiplied by x over 6 multiplied by x. 12 over 6 is equal to 2 over 1. X over x is equal to 1 over 1, which means 2 times 1 over 1 times 1, or just 2. So the answer is not 2x, it's actually 2. And your fifth question, what is the product of 10xy by 2xy? Is it actually equal to 20xy squared? The answer is false, because 10 times x times y multiplied by 2 times x times y. Well, 2 times 10 is 20, but x times x is x squared, not x. And y times y is y squared, so therefore the solution is not 20xy squared, 20x squared y squared. And your last of your true false is 2, or doubling the trinomial x squared plus x plus 2 is the same value as that trinomial divided by negative x. The answer actually is true, and we'll see why. So if we expand this using distributive property, we're going to get 2x squared plus 2x plus 4. And if we take this and expand it or divide it using distributive property, we're going to get negative 2x cubed divided by negative x, negative 2x squared divided by negative x, and negative 4x divided by negative x. So by doing all of that, negative 2 divided by negative 1 is going to be just a negative 2, or a positive 2, excuse me. X cubed divided by x is going to be x squared, giving me a positive 2x squared. A negative 2 divided by negative 1, excuse me, is a positive 2. And x squared divided by x is x. And a negative 4 divided by a negative 1 is a positive 4. And x divided by x is itself. And once we do that, we see that both of these trinomials are indeed the same thing, and therefore it's true. Our next question says solve by modeling. It says x multiplied by negative 2x, so we need to choose this side to be our x, and our other side to be our negative 2x, And once we do that, we can fill it in. And since an x times an x is a negative x squared, our answer is negative 2x squared. Our next question is solved by modeling 4x squared divided by 2x. So we said the easiest thing to do is first draw in your 2x's and then figure out how to fit in 4x squareds inside that. So what we're going to do here is draw it like this. Those are going to be positives. And once we have that, we know our missing side length is going to be our answer. And that is going to be an additional positive 2x. So our solution for that is a positive 2x. Next one is a product of a monomial. So we're going to put negative 2x's down here. I'm going to leave them unshaded to represent negative. And up top, I'm going to put an x and a minus 1. So the product of negative 2x by x minus 1 is that. If I shade in my areas here, I end up with this. The only difference is a negative 1 times a negative x. These are going to be positive x's, which means my solution is negative 2x squareds and a positive 2x. And our last question is division of a binomial by a monomial. Always put this one in first, so I'm going to put it in up here this time, 4x's. There's 1x, there's 2x's, 3x's, and 4x's. Inside that I want to put 4x squareds. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And negative 4x's. Just like that, negative 4x's. These are positives, excuse me. And negative 4x's. So now our missing side length is going to be our answer. This is going to be a positive x. And this has to be a negative 1. Because in order for a positive x to get a negative x, you have to multiply it by negative 1. Your next two questions said solve using an area model. So this is the product of 5 by 5x minus 3. So what I wanted to see was a 5 here, where your monomial would go, and a 5x up here, and a negative 3 over here, because it's not a 3, it's a negative 3. And inside there, the product of it would be the sum of those two little mini parts. 5 times 5x is 25x, and 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. So therefore, the product is 25x minus 15. And we would have got the same thing had we expanded using distributive property. Same question this time, except instead of multiplication, we're given our monomial, and we're given our areas in here. Okay, so once we have that, we know our areas already because the division is area given, side given. What's the side length missing? This would be a positive 3x squared because negative 4 times 3x squared is negative 12x squared. And this is going to be a positive 2 because negative 4 times positive 2 gives me negative 8. Therefore, my solution is 3x squared plus 2. For questions 13 to 23, it says use distributive property to simplify. So here, you simply had to multiply 8 by 4x or 8 by 4 by x, which would be 32x. Here, it's 2 times x times negative 3 times x because negative 3x squared is that. Our solution, therefore, would be negative 6x cubed. 22x squared divided by negative 11x, so it's 22 multiplied by x over negative 11 multiplied by x multiplied by x. Negative 20 or 22 over negative 11 is going to be a negative 2, and that's going to be our solution, just negative 2. And our next question, a lot of people got this one wrong. So if they get 12x squared as being 12 times x over 24 times x. When I do this, I'm going to be left with 1 over 2, not 2 over 1 or 1 over 1, but 1 over 2, which is going to be this coefficient. So essentially what I'm left with is a half of x, or more appropriately, 0.5x, or even more appropriately, half of x. Because x is left in the numerator and 2 is left in the denominator. But all three answers are correct. The 0.2x multiplied by 5xy will be 0.2 times x multiplied by 5 times x times y. When you multiply your coefficients together, 5 times 0.2 is 1. X times x is x squared, and y by itself is y. Of course, you would then erase your one coefficient because you know one coefficients are superfluous and unnecessary. They're understood to exist even though they're not written. So your answer for this would be x squared y. Next one requires a little bit more distributive property because now you're multiplying polynomials by monomials. So 2 times 8x is 16x, and 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So your solution for this is 16x minus 2. This one's a little tricky because this negative symbol actually means a negative 1 coefficient, or as we said when we studied rational numbers and exponential form, the opposite of. So when I expand it, I can either think of it the opposite of or multiplying everything by negative 1. That'll give me a 2x squared minus 2x plus 7 as a solution. Multiplying this out using distributive property, negative 10x times negative 10x, or negative 10 times x, which is negative 10x, times negative 10 times x, will be 100x squared, and negative 10x multiplied by positive 6 is negative 60x. Inexplicably, some people decided to simplify this down to 40x, but of course you can't add or subtract those two terms in the binomial because they're not like terms, and in order to add or subtract terms, they must be like terms, which means they have to have the same variable and the same exponent. So your solution is this. Your next question is division. So 50 times x is 50x squared, divided by negative 25 times x, and then negative 100 times x divided by negative 25 times x, because we need to use distributive property for division. This will give me a negative 2x. This will give me a positive 4, and just a positive 4. So the solution for this question, when simplified, would be negative 2x plus 4, not minus 4. Same question, but a division of a trinomial by a monomial. In this case, it's a simple one. So I'm going to do it without actually even rewriting it out again. 21x squared divided by 3 is 7x squared. Negative 9x divided by 3 is negative 3x. And positive 6 divided by 3 is positive 2. Negative 20x squared y is written like that in its parts, divided by 40x y, or 40 times x times y. When I simplify this, this is going to be a negative 1 over 2. That's going to cancel each other out. That's going to cancel each other out. I'm going to be left with a negative x over 2, or a negative x over 2, or an x over negative 2, or a negative 0.5x, if you wanted to, or a negative 1/2 x. All 5 of those are the same thing. I'm going to use the decimal coefficient. And you could use any of the other ones, that's fine. So our first term, when we divide negative 20x squared y by 40xy, we get negative 0.5x, or half an x. And 80 times x times y, which is 80xy squared, divided by 40xy, will be simply 2y, or plus 2y over 1, or just plus 2y. These two questions, the last two, were not done very well on it as a whole, but I probably weighted them fairly heavy And as a result, if you didn't do much work in it, you lost 11 marks out of 52, which is a significant portion of your test. So it says a rectangle has an area of 6x squared plus 12x plus 3, and a width of 3. So this is kind of like our area model, except we have the rectangle like this. And I'm going to break it up into actually 3 parts, because you're going to see why that makes sense in a second. If the area was 6x squared plus 12x plus 3 and the side length was 3, that meant that this part from here to here had to be 2x. This part from here to here had to be 4x, or positive 4x. And this part from here to here had to be 1. Because 3 times 2x squared is this, and 3 times 4x is this, and 3 times 1 is this. So therefore, if I redrew my rectangle, side length is 3, and the length is this. Okay? But that's not the question. The question was not what is the length of the rectangle if its area is 6x squared plus 12x. It's what is its perimeter. And since we know a rectangle has 4 sides, we really have 2 lengths and 2 widths, or we have 2 threes, because we have one here and one here, and we have 2 widths, which is this one here and this one here. And altogether, they make up the perimeter of the rectangle. So 2 threes is 6, and 2 of those would be 4x squared plus 8x plus 2. When I gather my like terms, I end up with 4x squared plus 8x plus 8. And that's what the perimeter is. The perimeter is 4x squared plus 8x plus 8. And your last question. So the question says fill in the missing parts to the pyramid. So therefore, this 4 multiplied by this number here is giving me the one above it, which is this one here. And since I know what number times what number is this, I could use division to solve it. So what I'm going to do here is I know that this is going to be this number divided by this number will tell me the missing number that's multiplied here. When I do that, it's going to be negative 2x squared minus 2x plus 3. So if I erase this now because I've done my work, this is the value of this square, because this multiplied by this gives me this. No, I made a mistake. It should be just negative x squared. Yeah, just negative. Oh, did I do it by 2? Oh, poopy darn. Okay, let me do this again. I divided by the wrong number. So negative 4x squared minus 8x plus 12 divided by 4. Did I put 2 there? I divided by 2. Okay, I get you. So the answer is negative x squared minus 2x plus 3. My bad. I'm such a dum-dum. So now I have this one here, because this multiplied by this gives me the one above it, which is this one. So that's worth 1 point to get that. Now this times this is going to give me the one above it. So if I wanted to rewrite that again, this is what it looks like. Use distributive property. A negative x times a negative x squared is going to be a positive x cubed. A negative x times a negative 2x is going to be a positive 2x squared. And a negative x times a positive 3 is a negative 3x. So that's going to be the solution for the second missing step. And then the final step, or the apex of our pyramid, is going to be the sum of those two polynomials. So I'm actually going to take negative 4x squared minus 8x plus 12, and I'm going to add to it x cubed plus 2x squared minus 3x. And since I'm adding those two trinomials, it's the same thing as gathering like terms. I'll start with my highest degree term, which is my x cubed. That'll be my first term. I have 2x squareds and negative 4x squareds, which is going to be negative 2x squareds. A negative 3x and a negative 8x is going to be a negative 11x. And the positive 12 will stay by itself.